Hello, Jax West here again. This time, though, I'm trying on Zoom, and Zoom is always kind of weird. And I'm new to trying to use Zoom. So there, there's Christopher. Um, so you're just going to have to stay tuned on that to see if we get this to work. We've had some good luck, some bad luck when we've used the Zoom. Um, but it looks like we've got it on Stephen Avery project. But it's really weird when I do it on through Zoom to Stephen Avery project that now I can't see any of your comments. So I then have to go to the page to try and see the comments as well. So it's all kind of weird. But welcome back. We took the little break there to have lunch, and you can kind of see the container here. Jeff literally just got the container out of the attic 10 minutes ago, so I don't even know what I have letters wise, but I was finding some interesting stuff in there that we'll go through. And I'm joined this time by Christopher. So Christopher, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Christopher Weaver. I'm one of Jax's awesome moderators here. And we wanted to put together a wonderful day for you today of mainly Jax. I'm only going to be here for an hour. Watch our numbers go way down because they want you. But we will give you your queen back in 1 hour's time, I promise. We're going to be asking Jax some really awesome questions during this hour. And some of you have sent me some questions to ask her. So this is
Uh-oh.
going to be an awesome kind of like an interview format. And I meant to ask Jax before we did this if there were any questions off limits. Oops. No, 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 nothing like that. We're going to have a wonderful hour. And of course, people always want to know. And you hear from you have a wonderful advocacy for so many inmates. What is prison like at Christmas time for them?
Well, this year obviously is different with COVID, but I know from Melissa, because Melissa is the one that I have constant contact with. So I can tell you more about, in the case of Melissa, what it's like for her. And so a lot of times around Christmas, they get food donated to the prison. So these may be stuff that might be expired, but they won't tell you that, or it's just an overabundance of stuff that so sometimes for the holidays they're able to get an actual like turkey dinner, and they get ice cream donated a lot too. So they get ice cream and that kind of stuff. So I have seen on visits with Melissa, because now Melissa's prison is completely different, obviously, because it's for women. So women have children. So there would be in the visitors room at Melissa's prison, there'd be a Christmas tree, and then there'd be presents that were donated that would be for kids that are coming to visit their moms, assuming that they're able to get a gift while they're there. um I think the prison that Brendan's in, now that he's in Oshkosh, he's able to get outside food that, so like they could pick up food at a restaurant and bring it to him, his favorite whatever. But in COVID, you can't have any of that. So Christmas for them now is awful, that they may get some kind of special meal, but that's it. And then some prisons are allowing the video visits. So maybe you'll get to do a video visit with your loved ones for the holiday, but it's really I mean, it's prison, so there's not much they get to do for the holidays. There are a lot of programs that do like adopt an inmate and will send them a bunch of Christmas cards at this time, so they might get Christmas cards from a complete stranger. Uh, so something to brighten their spirits a little bit.
Mhm.
But
That's that. Mm. That's something good for them to know. And we've posted, as you said earlier, we posted Melissa's address and Stephen and Brendan's address, and we can repost them today. And if anybody wants them, the addresses, just tag somebody, tag us, and we'll get them to you. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, it was one of the first things that you mentioned this morning, when you were talking about, when you were watching, man, when you were watching on Netflix, and particularly, you have been at the bitter receiving end of some pretty awful bullying, pretty awful verbal attacks, a promise of physical attacks. Most people would walk away. Most people would say, okay, look, I've got a life, I've got a family, I don't need this.
mhm.
But your loyalty to these men, is phenomenal. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I mean, there's so many people have tried to come for you when you didn't send for them.
um, I feel very strongly in what was done to them was wrong. And yes, making a murderer is what drew me in. They are not the only people that are in prison for something they didn't do. Brendan is not the only person who's been forced into a false confession. He's not the only child that has been stuck in prison. There's so many, so I could advocate for others, but I started out with them due to making a murderer drawing me in. And I'm sticking with it because I believe so strongly. And I feel like whatever has been done to me, whether or not it's from Avery family or fans or even Stephen or Brendan themselves, um, no matter what's done to me, I'm not in prison and I'm not going through anything near what those two go through or anybody else who's wrongfully convicted. And maybe if I had, I don't have a 9 to 5 job. I have the time, and especially after adding Christopher as a moderator, Christopher handles a lot of the stuff that is going on all of these pages. I'm not even reading when people message Stephen Avery Project or whatever. Christopher is doing it. So if it's not for a team, and there's other moderators that are with us as well, but if it isn't for a team of people taking on that load, maybe I would have left, and just moved on to something else. I advocate for the Melissa Kaluzinski case. Her family are perfectly lovely. I have no issues, nobody coming after me, nothing with Melissa's case at all. And so, I'm sure I could find other cases that I wouldn't have the issues I have with this one. But it's still, the fact remains, what has happened to Stephen and Brendan is wrong. And so I'm going to be here until it ends. And it doesn't matter what anybody does to me, I will still be here.
And I believe that. I think everybody listening to you, that people that know you know that you don't walk away, that you will be here to the end of time. What do you love most about, or maybe love is a big word. What do you love most about Stephen and Brendan?
A thing I can say about Stephen is he's really funny. And it's not something I would have thought, so in the times that I talked to him or visited with him, he would say things that the story that I tell all the time with Stephen is, he went to prison before internet is really a big deal or anything. He doesn't know anything about social media. He doesn't understand it or get it. He may know, he always calls it website, so when we talk about Stephen Avery Project, he would say my website. He doesn't quite get what it is. And so I was telling him one day of, you do not completely understand of how famous you are. And I'm like, you have so many people that are crazy fans for you. I'm like, you could get a haircut and put your hair in a baggie and sell that, and people would buy it. And Steven's response to me was, I don't think I want my DNA going around other places. And I mean, and it's just like, oh my God, that is really freaking funny, So a lot of times Steven really would crack me up on you think he's not going to be all that smart, because he does have the low IQ. I believe his IQ is lower than Brendan's even. Um, but he can really pull something out of there that's really funny. Um, and then with Steven as well is, I know how badly he wants to be loved, that he wants to be in love. And that's how some people have manipulated him into thinking they're going to be, tricking him into thinking it's going to be a relationship, like that evil, I'm not even going to say her name, but the chick that had gone on Dr. Phil, that are able to manipulate him. And he's just seeing this, who he thinks is a pretty woman who has interest in him. And he's like, oh, I'm going to be in love. And, she's got an adult daughter too. And he's like automatically thinking of her as, like a kid and of his. And, he just, because it was stolen from him. And then there's the only person who has stood by him 100% is his mom, and the love he has for his mother and her for him. I mean, it really gets me. Then for Brendan is just so sweet. Um, and something I found when I was going through the container, and I told this story before, but okay, when I went with somebody who was on Stephen or Brendan's visitors list, I went with her. Just she was going to visit Brendan, and I just went with for the car ride, and I sat in the car, and I had talked to Brendan on the phone, and he knew I was going to be sitting in the car, and he's like, what are you going to do for those couple hours while they're in here with me? And that was one of the times when I was attempting to get in shape, and I was, so I would walk a lot, and I'm like, well, first of all, I have my phone, so I have internet. And I said, oh, or I might just go for a walk. And he's like, oh, you might not want to do that because the guys are going to whistle at you, so he said, it says it like it's a big deal that I'm going to get whistled at. It was really cute. But then when the visit was over and they came out to the car, they brought me, and see, this is my little pack rat thing. This bag of Fritos, which you're not supposed to be able to bring food or drink back out of the prison, but they brought this out here. So it was a half-eaten bag of Fritos, but Brendan told them to bring it out to me because I would probably be hungry. So he's just, for the people that Brendan cares about, he truly cares and wants to take care of them. He's a loving kid, a very trusting kid. He's, so that's my experience with him. And most of the time, like talking to him on the phone, it would be talking about video games and that kind of stuff, because even though he's a man, he's still childlike. So, and then the sympathy, I have sympathy, empathy for Steven, but your heart really goes for Brendan. I also have a son. So it's, so those are the two for both guys. That's what stands out the most for me.
Those are some great memories also. We're going to talk now about one of your favorite people in the entire universe, Scott Todick. Now, this is somebody that you have said before that you had the fortune or misfortune to be around for a short period of time. So perhaps you would be a better judge of character than the thousands of other of us that have not been around him. What would you say if you were to describe him with a one-word answer, the first word that comes to your mind? What would that be?
Manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
would be the one word answer. So, um, okay. So once upon a time, I was friends with Barb. And so Barb and Scott had made me a moderator of Barb's Facebook group
Mhm.
for Brendan. And there was a time that we were doing a Facebook Live. And so I was the moderator of that. So what that was is my partner Jeff was the one that was actually filming it. So he was using my phone to film the live that was going on the Brendan group. And so I was questioning Barb, Scott, and Pete Dassey. And we were at Barb's home. During this time, I was on the path of thinking it was Ryan Hilgas. Um, and I actually felt bad for Scott because of the way he had been looked at and everything. That I have an article that I wrote at some point defending Scott. Scott was always in person anyway. He was always very nice to me. All right. So I'll put that out there first and foremost, that I never had any issues with Scott one-on-one in person. Um, I talked to Scott about the fire. I asked him, why was there the different stories of how tall the fire was? His explanation to me was the cops just kept asking until he got it to be what they wanted. And that made perfect sense to me because that's what was done to Brendan. And I know it's what was done to at least Brian Dassey, because I met Brian Dassey that day and talked to him. And so Brian Dassey had said to me the same thing that was done to Brendan was done to him and was done to all the Dassey boys. Brendan was the only one able to be manipulated. The rest of them were smart enough and able to withstand that kind of questioning. Um, so Scott, initially, I was defending him and I felt bad for him. Then there was this complete fallout with Barb. If people ask a question on that, I'll delve into that, but I won't go off into that right now. Um, and Scott then removed me as moderator of that group. And then he was removing me due to somebody else's actions that they were upset with. And so then I had messaged Scott, and I called him too. Um, and Scott then apologized to me, and he put me back as moderator. But then he ended up removing me again, just days after, and then made some post claiming I stole money from the family by t-shirt sales. And it's like, what is going on here? And I had seen, so that very visit, when I talk about going to see Brendan and he gave me that, on the ride back from the prison, Barb had called us. We were on speakerphone in the car, and she was telling us how upset she is with Scott because they were out hunting. And so when you go out hunting, Scott was in his deer stand and she was off in hers. So it's like the only time that she could talk that Scott's not there listening. Because most of the time, if you would talk to Barb on the phone, if Scott's there, he makes her put her on speakerphone so he can listen and contribute to the call, so really kind of controlling. And so since she wasn't with Scott, she was then telling us that she really isn't happy in the marriage. She wants out, and she had already talked to one of her sons about living with them, and they okayed it. I don't know which son it was. It's either Brian or Bobby. So, and I know that Scott also really keeps tabs on Barb. Like, he knows what time she gets out of work and how long it takes her to drive from work to home. And if she is not home in that period of time, because Scott doesn't work a whole lot, he's always manipulating that he's got some medical ailment, so he's off of work. So he's home. So if she's not home as quickly as he thinks she should be, he's now questioning, where were you? What was going on? Blah, blah, blah. Dinner, he wants a cooked dinner and he wants those dishes done, everything put away as soon as dinner's done. But Barb never came off to me like an abused, battered woman, because like I will see her, or I had seen her like yell at Scott and tell Scott off. So it's not that, but it doesn't mean she wasn't abused at all, because he does do the, keeping tabs of her every waking moment. But it's not like she's afraid she's going to get hit. But he does have a record of beating past wives. So, and his own mother. So you do know he's capable of that. So I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine, but for something completely different. I'm a bad judge of character when I first meet somebody. Now, it's not that I'm not judgmental and superficial. I absolutely can be, that I can look at somebody and go, but most times I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt. And then I learn later they're not a good person. So, and I've had that a lot in this case. So with Scott, I was first his friend and defending him, and then just more and more wasn't, adding up. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's that.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a half hour with Bobby Dassey, what would you say to him? What would you ask him?
For Bobby, the first question would be, why don't you go talk to Kathleen Zellner? If you are innocent, go talk to Kathleen. When Kathleen Zellner has all the stuff she puts out there about Bobby, she is not saying beyond a shadow of a doubt it's Bobby. That's why we have seen her put out things on Ryan Hilgas, and she's put out things from law enforcement. Her job is to show that there is reasonable doubt in this case, and that there are other people that could be looked at. So it's not conflicting or a contradiction when it's like, oh, she was first pointing fingers at, Colborne, and now it's here. It's because that's her job. She doesn't have to prove who did it beyond a shadow of doubt. She just has to show that Stephen did not, and other people should have been looked at. So my thing to Bobby would be, go talk to Kathleen Zellner. That's first and foremost. Go talk to her, because if he's truly innocent, and I don't believe he is, but that doesn't mean he isn't. But if he's truly innocent, go talk to Kathleen. I get why you wouldn't want to talk to Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, which is who he talks to all the time, that I don't understand why you keep talking to them. Go talk to Kathleen. That's first and foremost. Then, if I was able to find out from him that he did do this, you would try and be sympathetic to like manipulate him. This was an accident. I understand, blah, 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 those kinds of things. But I would also be fearful that he's done this to somebody else, because if he was obsessing on Teresa, who's to say he didn't obsess on another girl? So and yes, when you see the things that were on his computer, it's a worry, that and he's a man, should this man be on the streets? I don't know. But first and foremost, it's Bobby. Go talk to Kathleen Zellner. And, you've lied. We know you've lied, because you've said once that you didn't see, you saw her there. You see her walking towards Steven's trailer, and that's all you see. But now we know that you told both your brother Brian and your mother Barb that you saw her leaving. So why wouldn't you, if you did see her leaving, why wouldn't you tell people that? Because I get it if they don't give a shit about Steven. I've heard over and over again why most of the family doesn't like Steven. And I get it. Trust me, I get why the family doesn't like Steven. All right. But it helps Brendan. So, okay, you don't want to help Steven. Don't you want to help Brendan? So help Brendan. So that's where I would go with Bobby Dassey.
That's good, and I think a lot of the members are enjoying this Q&A. This is a lot of the members are always asking questions because you field questions all the time. How are Dolores and Alan doing? You know, as we know that they're getting elderly, and who knows when the last time they were able to visit Stephen because of COVID. I guess the question that the members want to know is how are they, and who do you think they want to know who does Dolores and Alan think did it?
All right. So I have never had any contact with Alan. I have talked to Dolores on 3 occasions. I can say that Dolores has told me she thought it was Scott, was not thinking it was Bobby, not thinking it's family. She doesn't like Scott, has never liked Scott. Scott is who, when I talked to her, which was a while ago, is who she told me she thought it was. Okay. How are they doing currently? I can't say because I don't personally know because I'm not in that circle any longer. So whatever people will report to me that are in the various groups that do have contact with the family when they post something, that's all I know. My standard answer on that always is they're getting older every day. Every day that passes is another day that one of them could pass away and miss out on the opportunity to see their son freed. So I don't know anything offhand on how is their health today or visits with Stephen. They don't visit Stephen very often, period, because they're not able to. You know, it's hard. I mean, just for me being a, fat woman with back disease, it is hard for me when I go and visit the drive and then sitting in the horrible chair. It kills my back, and it's gotta be 10 times worse for them being older than I. So, and then for Dolores, most of the time she's in a wheelchair, and for Stephen's prison anyway, it's easier for her to visit because you go in through a gate for visits and the visitors room is like right there. So you don't have to go very far, but it's still, she doesn't drive. You're relying on somebody else to take you. And so they didn't get to visit Stephen as much as they would like. Now phone calls happened a lot more, but also that's costly. That really starts to add up, and that's a burden. Now, the Avery family is not hurting for money, okay? Um, but that's still a huge expense. If you've ever listened to those phone calls from when Stephen was in jail talking to his mom and such, she would mention how much these calls are costing her, over $1,000 a month in phone calls. I don't care how much money you have, that's a huge burden on a family. So, and now you've got COVID since March, there are no visits. So even if Dolores was able to go visit Stephen, she can't. And Dolores isn't on the internet. She doesn't have email. So, I mean, and Steven doesn't like to email. But so she can't email Steven. She's not going to do, there's no video visits. So all that's left for her are phone calls.
Hmm. It's sad.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
it's really, really sad. And I mean, this story is a travesty, period, but it's gonna be really horrible if his mom passes
Mhm.
away before he's free.
That'll be incredibly sad.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, and it's good that we talk about these because I know the members always have a lot of questions about them. What do you miss most about your friendship with Brendan?
I liked making Brendan giggle. I liked to say things that he would think is funny. Um, because I really wanted the time that I talked to him to just be fun, because his life is so bad. So I wanted him to giggle, and I just wanted to break up the monotony of his life, and I feel so horrible what's been done to him, and anything I could do to help him, I wanted to do. And it's hard that Brendan now thinks badly of me because people have lied to him. Um, but I do know he does have a support system of people outside of his family, because his family is not the best support system for him. So I am glad that there are people who have been there for him all this time. I know there are people, now these people don't like me, but I know they care for Steven, or for Brendan, and they want the best for him. So I know, I'm happy that he has those people, that he can confide in and talk to and giggle with, because I'm sure those people make him giggle, make him smile.
So those are happy memories for you to look back on, kind of, and to think of those, the giggle moments, those little innocent moments. Those are very sweet moments to look back on. You posted an article. You wrote a beautiful article a year or two ago, and it received so much attention from the public, from the members. The name of the article that you wrote was "How Brendan Gets Lost in Steven's Shadow." And you did a live. As soon as you published that, you did a live to talk about it. And the emotions really caught you. I mean, you were talking about Brendan and really, really feeling it. Share with us that what it was like to write that article, because you really put your heart and soul into the word, every word of it.
Well, so when I wrote that, I mean, and that was years ago when I actually wrote it. I've shared it a couple times since then. So when I wrote that was before I took over Stephen Avery Project. So that's just when all I was there's a Facebook page called Free Brendan Dassey that I'm an admin of. And so this is when Making a Murderer had first come out, and most people were talking about Steven, and they weren't talking about Brendan. And I mean, I know there's always people that the Brendan story resonates with them, but Brendan wasn't getting the attention I felt, he deserved. So I had asked at that time, I reached out to Laura Nyrider, his attorney, and I asked her if I could, this was before I had never talked to Brendan or anything prior at this time. So I had asked her if I could talk to Brendan and ask him questions like, what's your favorite color? Innocent things. That wouldn't be about his case. But I wanted people to get to know who Brendan is, not what you see on Making a Murderer, because as I said, he's lost in Steven's shadow, and Laura had told me that she wishes she could, but she can't. That Brendan's story is actually owned by Netflix, and so that he couldn't do an interview or anything like that at that time. But she did have me write a letter to Brendan, and I do have several of my letters here, but from him that I found in that container, but I haven't gone through them to see which one is which. So we're going to have to do a separate live where once I've gone through these letters. But I had sent a letter to him where I was able to ask him those bunches of questions that I believe the answers to those are in that article of what's your favorite food, what's your favorite holiday, what's your favorite Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. So, and I start to get, ooh, okay, I'm getting distracted by looking at a letter from Brendan. When I talk about Brendan, and if I get really deep into it, I can start to tear up because it's so horrible what's been done to Brendan. It's horrible what's done to Steven, but Brendan was 16 and he was so manipulated, and there was nobody there for him. His mother wasn't there for him. Nobody was there for him to protect that boy. So it's, yeah, Brendan is very special.
And you can tell whenever you speak about him, you can tell that he's still in your heart. Even though you're not speaking at the moment. Um, some of the things that a lot of us always have interest in is the options that are remaining for him, the options that are remaining for Brendan, because there's been some misinformation. What do you have to say about the options that are left for him?
Really, I feel the only option that's left for him is the governor.
Mm.
And I don't see that happening. I truly do not see this governor letting Brendan go. The governor has cited things that, I mean, he's right in the things that the governor is saying, that Brendan's case, according to what that governor cites, his case doesn't fit for the clemency, or whatever it's called. That's why also you hope, okay, Bobby, if you did this, you've had the opportunity to have a life, and you got married and you have children. That was all taken from Brendan. So you guys all like wrestling, time to tag out. Let Brendan have his freedom, and now it's time for you to, pay for what you've done. Brendan's done enough time for you.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Every day we see on Stephen Avery Project, there's more new likes, new members every day, and of course, with every new, there's always a guilter that comes along, and you deal with it most often. What do you say to a guilter? What's the number one, the best piece of evidence that you believe that shows their innocence, and that this is the first thing that you go to, because that's the biggest piece.
Everything's planted. There's just that to me would be the biggest thing, is if you look at things realistically, you're not putting in your slant of how you want this to go. That stuff was all planted. They really don't have anything to prove Steven's guilt, and they did not use Brendan's coerced confession in Steven's trial. There's no Brendan in Steven's case. So that evidence was planted. And if you truly were to look at it with an open mind and follow the facts and the evidence, you would see that stuff is planted. Who actually planted it? Don't know. But there's just too much reasonable doubt. That's a thing. One of the first things I would say to guilters as well, reasonable doubt. So even if you were going to say there's evidence that would show Steven's guilty, and I don't believe there's enough reasonable doubt in this case and enough proof that Steven did not get a fair trial he should not be in prison. And I don't understand guilters. And I know we've had one that's been spamming up the comments here already in this live. I don't get their fascination with the case. If you believe Stephen is guilty and he's never getting out, and you know he's guilty, I mean, I feel there are guilters who are more involved in this case than those of
Oh
us who
yeah.
know they're innocent. I
Hmm.
don't get it. I say, there's people that I believe are guilty. OJ Simpson, guilty. I'm not obsessing every second of every day on what's happening in the world of OJ. I don't care. Life's too short. I'm as involved as I am because an injustice has been done. And there are people in prison who have done are there for something they didn't do. And their families are suffering as well. So that's why I stay with it, because this is horrible what's been done. And there's no justice for Teresa Halbach. The guilters want to look at us like we don't care about Teresa, but we're the only ones that want whoever did whatever they did to Teresa Halbach held liable for it.
Yeah.
We don't care what happened to her.
Hmm. And then there's people there's members that say, wouldn't wouldn't her mother really want to know who killed her daughter? What do you say about that?
I defend the Halbach family a lot. Oh, we didn't see Karen Halbach crying. You don't know how she was raised. You don't
True.
know if she's told you do not show weakness in public. You don't cry. You don't we don't know who she is as a person. She doesn't need to be a sobbing mother, okay? And then when Making a Murderer is what really opened my eyes to the criminal justice system here in the United States. I am a white person, obviously. I have grown up in the suburbs of Chicago. So I'm not in the mean city. I'm in the suburbs where, people aren't killed here. I have no reason to be afraid of police and think police are going to do something wrong to break the law. And until Making a Murderer, I was always, if you confessed, you were guilty. If you asked for a lawyer, you were guilty. uh you know the police said this happened, so it happened. I mean, I was really naive and blind to it. And then watching Making a Murderer really is like, oh my god, look what happened to this guy, not once but twice. But for the Halbach family, they're having police tell them this is what happened to Teresa. They have no reason not to believe it.
Yeah.
And Stephen is who Stephen is. Is he the greatest guy in the world? No. Has he done some bad things? Yes. So you could see why the family would go, yeah, this is the one. Even Penny Bernstein, who she's somebody I'm pissed at.
Yeah.
When Stephen got charged with this, she right away jumped to Stephen being guilty. When you know what you did to him the
Hmm.
first time,
Hmm.
you were manipulated into saying it was Stephen, and it wasn't. You know what happened to him. But Penny Bernstein right away is saying Stephen's capable of doing that. Are
Yep.
you kidding me? So there's no reason for the Halbach family to not think what law enforcement is telling them isn't the truth. I understand it. But my problem with them would be, if it were me, I would want to follow every piece of the evidence on my
Hmm.
loved one. So you'll have Halbach family claiming they've never even watched Stephen or Making a Murderer.
Hmm.
I would have to watch everything. I would have to see everything. So I fault them for not questioning. Now, when once Kathleen Zellner came on the case and is pointing these things out, that the family haven't at some point, when they're getting bones years after the case, when you're getting bones years later, that in trial was said these aren't Teresa, but now they're giving you these bones. You got to be questioning something at this point. Why would you accept those bones if that's not Teresa?
You just have to wonder in the quiet stillness of the night, are they thinking what we're thinking? Have they been to our page? Have they watched these videos? Yeah, they like to say that they don't, but have they really? You have to
Right.
wonder in the quiet stillness of the night when when you want to know something. Um, what would you say the fair punishment for Ken Kratz would be? If they can do the exoneration and get the men out, what do you think is fair treatment for him?
He should go to prison for the rest of his life.
Hmm. Hands
And
down.
lock him away, take away the key. Ken Kratz did so many unethical things, and I'm not talking about his sexting. I'm talking in this case, he did so many nasty things that he should now go away forever. And let me jump back to the Hallback family for a quick second, something that I thought of that I can share with you all. I've talked about this before, but I may not have mentioned it on Stephen Avery Project, because most of the times when we go in depth into the case, we do it in our subgroup MAM Gossip, because gossip gives you more freedom to talk about things on the case that people that come here to this big public page might not necessarily want to hear. They don't want to hear the gossip and all that. So that's what that group's for. So one of the times that I visited Stephen Avery, when you walk into the visitor's room, you are told by an officer what table to sit at. The tables are all numbered, and then you always have to sit on, usually a chair or something on the table will be marked for what side the inmate has to sit on and what side you sit on, because the inmate needs to be facing officers.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting there with Steven and this girl. Now, Steven and I were sitting, it was like 2 rows in from the side here, and it's like 4 rows back, so we're like in a middle. There's no reason for anybody to walk through where Stephen and I were sitting, and this girl walks behind Stephen, and she's like, "Hi Stephen, how you doing?" And he said, "I'm doing okay, how are you?" And she says, "I'm all right." And then she continues going to the table she was assigned at, and she sits down. And then Steven says to me, "Do you know who that was?" And I said, "No idea." He says, "That's one of Teresa Hallback's sisters. Her boyfriend was in the same prison that Steven is in. So he sees her all the time on visits." Now, I asked him what his relationship was like with the boyfriend, and he said they're in 2 different places. He really doesn't have anything to do with the guy. But so my thought is immediately, this is Teresa's little sister. That everything said that Teresa was just this phenomenal sister, coached her little sister's volleyball team, that she had such this good relationship with her little sisters. If you think Stephen Avery murdered your sister, are you going to walk anywhere near him? I mean, she was literally passing right behind his chair. And then she's the one that said something to him first. "How you doing, Stephen?" Why is she talking to Stephen Avery, who is in prison for murdering your sister, if you believe he murdered your sister? I was blown away by that. That was like huge to me. Now, I don't know what sister it is. I don't know. And, but it's just, that's something I forever take with me on, wow. Because if I happen to be in the prison that you murdered my sister, I'm probably going to end up being dragged out by officers,
Hmm.
because I'm going to be screaming things at you and calling you names and being really childish and, carrying on. But no, she intentionally walked by Stephen. She didn't have to walk there.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
chose to walk right by Stephen and ask him how he's doing. So that's something else on the Hallback family. So what do the Hallbacks really think about Stephen?
Hmm.
With Ken Kratz, though, he absolutely should be in prison
Hmm.
forever.
And there were some people that thought that Colburn was going to crack if he had been on the stand a little bit longer, or if it was dragged out a little bit longer. They thought that he was so close to just cracking. What do you think?
I think so too.
Mhm.
I think that guy totally could have been pushed to that.
Mhm.
Um, his lawsuit against Netflix has gone like nowhere. And didn't we just hear recently that his lawyer
Yeah.
quit?
Mhm. Mhm.
Somebody sent that to Stephen Avery Project like just last week, right?
Yeah.
That Colburn's lawyer quit.
Yeah.
Um, that's not going to go anywhere. Was never going to go anywhere. But Colborn, I think Colborn is just a soldier
Mhm.
and is doing what he was told by superior officers. I wouldn't be surprised if whenever it is that Colborn dies, if there isn't some letter somewhere that
Mhm.
he's written to clear the air on what happened in his part of it. I think this is something that's probably eating him up because he knows he was looking at that RAV4 when he called in the plates.
Mhm.
If he doesn't know anything else about this case, he knows he was looking at the RAV4.
And do you suppose that he was just along for the ride, just a member of the big boys club? You know, he was going to agree with whatever everybody else said. Do you suppose that he should also get the same treatment as Ken Kratz, or no?
Yes, I do. I feel all of them who willingly did something in from law enforcement with this cover up. So Lank and Colborn and Fassbender and Wiegert all should go to prison forever. I feel differently about, but see, this is only my theory, but with Ryan Hilgast, Scott Blodorn, and Michael Halbach. I do believe they were part of helping law enforcement in the planting of the RAV and doctoring phone records, but I believe they thought they were just helping to frame a guilty man. But they know differently now, and they need to come forward. I
Mhm.
do not think they should go. I do not think they should go to prison forever, but there needs to be some kind of punishment because what they've done have cost two men their freedom.
And it's sad. And just like you said about Penny, when she went to Stephen, it showed in Ma'am that, she hugged him, apologized. And then like a year or two ago, there was an article that came out and she was like right back and said, well, he probably did it. You
Right.
know, it's just outrageous where she can come from that.
Well, okay, so
And
here's the
she's
thing.
supposed to be a highly educated woman too.
Right.
She's supposed to be pretty smart.
So Penny's family, they're wealthy. Okay. Um, and so Steven saw that money. And he went to Penny Bernstein at one time and asked her to buy him a house. And Penny was so offended by that. And Stephen was being kind of a dick about it, on thinking she owed him a house. And so she's got kind of the same thing that law enforcement has, Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department has, in wanting to get rid of Stephen because
Hmm.
he's annoying her and she
Hmm.
just wants him out of her life. So, and I get her being annoyed by him thinking, by him kind of badgering her on buy me a house. But I also
Yeah.
understand Stephen saying it as well. Because, you Steven looks at her as being really rich. I don't know what her money situation is. I know she's wealthy. I know she lived here in the suburbs of Illinois in Naperville, which is a very wealthy suburb here. So I know she has money, but I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. She may not have enough money to just buy somebody a house. Um, but it does bother me that Penny jumped right on that bandwagon to say Stephen is guilty with nothing showing he's guilty.
She was immediate. She didn't even stop and collect $200 when she best go. I mean, she just went boom. She was right there with guilty.
Right.
If you were to talk with her, what would you say to her?
That she should apologize
Hmm.
to Stephen. You need to apologize. You know, you did not give him the benefit of the doubt again. And she should publicly apologize,
Hmm.
you
And she'd have
know.
to mean it.
Yeah. But um I think she likes the press when she wants the press, because she doesn't completely just go away. You know, there are
Hmm.
times that she has spoken about the case. I would totally understand if it's a, you know, my life has moved on. I don't want to keep delving into this thing. But she does at times,
Hmm.
she talks. And it's just, you know, so it would just be, I you need to say you're sorry, and you benefit of the doubt. If nothing else, she more than anybody owes Stephen the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. And in some of the interviews, she's like, well, this is really hard for me to talk about, but she still does. So it can't be that hard, you know? It's
Mhm.
one of those things. You said at the beginning of this that no matter what, you will never stop fighting for those that you believe in, Stephen and Brendan and Marnie and Melissa, and so many other names that we can't mention on Stephen Avery Project because people get so mad. Um, but this is what would you say to the people that have an inmate in prison this time of year? I mean, there's a lot of people listening that might have someone inside. People can't be with their family. People might be alone. What are some words of, as we finish this up this hour, what are some words of encouragement that you would say to those folks who are alone at Christmas or may have an incarcerated mother, father, boyfriend, wife, girlfriend, etc.?
Yeah. It would be, you know, I know it's tough, but stick with it. You know, you need to be talking to your incarcerated loved one and asking them what they need. You know, whatever it is that they need, whatever you can provide for them to, you know, make their day a little easier. And I understand how hard it is for loved ones, because this is a whole nother thing, a whole nother hole we could go down. But people don't understand the burden that gets put on the families when people are incarcerated. They are not given just this free room and board. They have to pay and pay and pay and pay to be in prison. They are not given everything they need for their basic essentials. Women who have periods are given just the ugly, disgusting, huge maxi pad thing that, sorry guys or women who don't want to hear about it, but it's gross. Women don't want to wear that. And then you're only provided X amount of those. So you can't have a tampon unless you buy it yourself. Melissa Kaluzinski is somebody who has a lot of sensitive skin issues. So the soap or laundry detergent or whatever that they would give her, she breaks out from, and it gets really bad. So if she wants stuff, she has to buy it. If you're only allowed X amount of things in your cell, you're only allowed X amount of letters in your cell. And when those letters have to go home, you have to pay to mail those letters home. There is so much put on the family. It's unreal. And people don't understand that. They want to just go, oh, these people are living on the taxpayers' dime. No, they're not. They're so, and then when you work in prison, they're paying you next to nothing. And if you want to see a doctor, they charge you for a doctor. To just go see a doctor, they're going to charge you. Melissa has told me how much it was. I want to say she said it was like $10. And if you don't have a job at the prison, you're given $20 a month. That's all you get. So then you're paying $10 to go see the doctor. Well, the doctor's now just looking at you. And now if there's a follow up, you have to pay another $10. There's your whole month's allotment in just those two visits. And so you haven't been able to buy toothpaste. You can't buy tampons. You can't buy anything, you know? So people just have no concept of what it's truly like to be an inmate. I mean, and even me saying these things, I don't know. I've never been arrested. I don't, so I've never personally lived it. But in
Mm.
talking to them, Steven's told me, Brendan's told me, Melissa's told me of, they turn off their hot water and there's no hot water for them. Melissa, during COVID, they go a long time without letting them bathe. It's it's so bad. It's so bad. Yes, and it's prison. It's not supposed to be fun. But they could be treated so much better than they are. And if you're going to treat people like animals, what do you think they're going to do when they get out?
And maybe some of the people listening to this today who are so quick to say, well, they're in prison for a reason. They deserve to be, maybe they'll think about some of these things that you've said before they say that again, because they don't know all that
Well,
they
not
go through.
everybody's in prison for murder. So
Right.
what if somebody's in prison because they were caught with pot that is becoming legal places, but they're caught with pot and now they're getting treated like that too. All they did was they had some pot on them and they're being treated like that. How is that fair or right?
It's not. It's
So
totally
it
not
doesn't
fair.
matter if you're a murderer or you're in there for, a DUI. You shouldn't be treated that way.
That's right. It's sad. It's sad. Totally sad. Well, I hope the members have enjoyed our little interview segment. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I've asked lots of good questions. Some of the members sent in some really good questions. So now we're going to segue into the happy hour with Jax as we're completing our rally for all of you today. We hope everybody's enjoying it. Be sure to comment in the comments what country, what place you're from and watching. So I'm going to go by and give you Jax back. She is the one that you want to see and communicate with and enjoy. So she's going to wrap this up. I'm going to continue watching and enjoying all of the information shared. Thank you, Jax, for doing all of this today. And everybody, we see lots of hearts and smiley faces. Hashtag Team Jax for all of the time she has put into this today, and not just today, but for always. All the lives she does, everything that she does, and she's not paid. Those of you that care enough to want to think that she is, she's not. This is all done from her heart because she truly cares. And it's been an honor to be with you today and always. And I look forward to our next little soiree. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be watching here and enjoying it.
All right. We're going to keep
Thank you.
this rolling. Bye, Christopher. So, and now it's just me. I have not read through these letters that I have from Brendan. Oh my God, a lot of them, it's just an envelope and not the letter inside it. So let me just read some of these letters from Brendan so you can kind of get a feel of Brendan. So, and this letter's not dated, so I don't even know how long ago it is. Here's the letter. I'm trying to turn it so you can kind of see it in the light, but you can't really. All right. So Brendan says, "Dear Jax, how are you doing? I am doing fine. I received your letter over the weekend. I cannot think of any names as of now. And thank you for all the pictures. They are awesome." Trying to it's gonna be because I have a pond and I was asking him if he wanted to name any of the fish. He said, "Yes, I heard of the new Harry Potter book." And he says, "Yes, I heard about the, what does that say? Now game Pokemon. It sounds awesome. And about the tattoo, because this is something that Brendan and I would talk a lot about on the phone, because obviously I have tattoos and Brendan wants a tattoo. So he would talk to me about the tattoo he wants. He says, and about the tattoo, yes, on my shoulder, because that's something he asked me too. He wanted me to send him pictures of the tattoo he was describing to me that he wanted, so he could kind of really envision and come up with for sure what it was he wanted for a tattoo. He said, yes, on my shoulder, go down my arm, and I don't want any color on it as of now. And the painting was great. because I do have a painting that my tattoo artist made, that I had make of Stephen and Brendan. And so I sent him a picture of that. He said, the pond looks awesome. I bet you're very happy now it's done. So what else you been up to? How is the family? Tell everyone I said hi. That's all for now. I look forward to your next letter. Take care. Love, the complete and innocent Brendan Dassey. Brendan started signing all his letters, love, the complete and innocent, when his conviction was overturned, because that conviction had said, deemed him as innocent. So that's where the complete, yeah. So I'm wearing shorts. I don't think I can get up on here without falling, that you can see, but I have a Brendan tattoo. And underneath here, it says the complete and innocent, like Brendan signs it. So, all right, that's one letter. What's this one? It's actually in an envelope. This one he actually wrote on both sides of it, and it's green paper. Dear Jax, how are you doing? I am doing fine. I have received your letter a few days ago. I bet you cannot wait for the pond. Oh, this is something that I always thought was cute from Brendan. He's got no skinny dipping in quotes, no skinny dipping. And yes, the tats are awesome. We are on lockdown now, so I cannot wait to be off. And yes, all the shirts are great. I would love one when I get out, because Brendan designed shirts for me to make. I am good on stuff for now. And yes, I read the Harry Potter book. And favorite character is, and he spelled her name Hermonee, Hermione Granger. And yes, I listen to music on my radio all the time, and I love rock and roll. A couple of questions for you. How have you been? What's new with you? Can you send me some pictures of dragons? Because I want to get a dragon tat on my arm and shoulder when I get out. Well, that's all for now. I look forward to your next letter. Take care. Love, the complete and innocent Brendan Dassey. Can you kind of see that? Love, the complete and innocent Brendan Dassey. All right, so that's that letter. This one's dated April 4th, 2016. Dear Jax, hey there, I've received your letter a couple days ago. Thank you for your care, compassion, and support. It means a great deal to my family and I. I hope this letter finds you well and in good spirits. Per the advice of my attorneys, I cannot talk about my case. However, since you took the time out of your schedule to write me, I want to express my gratitude by writing back to you. My favorites are Color is Orange, Pokemon Mew, Food Burgers, TV show Arrow, movie Maze Runner, wrestler John Cena, Chip Doritos. And a lot of these I didn't ask, but it's just him putting it in there. Chip Doritos, snack, chocolate chip granola bars, book, Graceling series by Kristen Cassor. I don't know how you pronounce that. Season, fall, holiday, 4th of July, football team, Green Bay Packers, video game, any need for speed. And then he's got the arrow drawn on the bottom of the page for you to turn it over to read on the backside. Okay, so tell me a little more about yourself. What are your likes and dislikes? Can you send me some pictures so I know who I'm writing? That's all for now. I look forward to your next letter. Take care. And a smiley face. And then love, complete and innocent Brendan Dassey. And Brendan also signs a lot of his letters with this heart that in the middle of it, it says hugs and love. All right. Let's see. That's just an envelope. Next one. Dear Jax, How are you doing? I'm doing fine. I have received your letter a few days ago. I was excited to hear back from you and thank you for all your help. Much love," and a smiley face. It sounds like you're very busy. So, what kind of fish do you have in your pond? So, you gonna build your pond bigger? I had a visit over the weekend and my mom and dad came up. It went well. I was happy to see them. Thank you for the pictures. I like your tattoos. Awesome. I cannot wait to get a tattoo. I want a dragon on my arm and part of my back. Soon, right. Well, I have to go work out now. I look forward to your next letter. Take care. Love, the complete and innocent Brendan Dassey. Mm, This one is dated August 20th, 2016. Dear Jax, hey there. I hope this letter finds you well and in good spirits. I have received your letter and pictures a couple days ago. I'm doing great today. I am so happy that my conviction got overturned on Friday the 12th. I can't wait to be home with my friends, my family, and playing video games. I have a lot of video games to catch up on, including all the Pokemon games I missed over the past 10 years. I'm getting a visit tomorrow from my mom and my stepdad, Scott. I don't know if anyone else is coming up with them. I went to the library on Thursday. It was very lovely outside. I wish I would have had rec instead. How are you doing today? If you could build your dream house, what would it be like? Are you watching the Rio Olympics? If so, what is your favorite sports? Mine is volleyball and swimming. And then he's got page 1 written on the back. I wrote this one by the 5 pictures I picked I liked. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute. I would like to know which people won the prizes, okay? I would love to go to a wrestling match with you soon. I don't need anything right now, but thank you for asking. That is all for now. Do you like the band Restless Heart? They have a few songs I like. I look forward to your next letter. Take care until next time. Love, the complete and innocent. And then he added, legally now, Brendan Dassey. And then it's got his little love and hugs heart at the bottom. So, what he was talking about in the pictures that I see is here is I was organizing a rally for Stephen and Brendan. And I asked people to post pictures for signs for Brendan, and that I would then send them to Brendan, and Brendan would pick winners of which signs he liked the best. And these papers are all kind of screwed up here. So he then, because I sent him pictures of it, and then he would send them back to me where he picked. So on this one, you can't see the writing, because on this one here, he has written right here this one and an arrow pointing to it, that he liked that one. And then this one, somebody made something that looked like a Pokemon card, but they made it for Brendan. And so Brendan has written here. It's really weird on trying to, but he wrote on that one, this one. My letter to him is also in here, kind of. All right, so this is my letter coming back to you. Oh, wait. Huh. That book I told you of, poetry and jokes for him, it's got, and so a lot of it is cat stuff. And so this is me sending him those. And then I was sending him also pictures of, so like a picture of my dogs, and then on the backside, I was telling him about my dogs. I told him we had started a whole flat Brendan thing. So I was sending him that so he could see the flat Brendan we were doing. I signed the letter with, "I love you, kid. I am always here for you. If you ever need or want anything, please let me know. Love, your complete and total supporter, Jax." And then I made the heart like he does, but I wrote, why is this "love you, kid" in the heart? Pictures of my cat and picture of my dog. So those are the letters I'm finding offhand from him. This is a car sticker I found in this container thing that I made a bunch of these Justice for Brendan stickers to go on cars. I've actually got 2 sitting here. This is from when I was with freebrendan.org. This is from Ken Kratz, was going to do a book tour by me. So I organized a protest against Ken Kratz book tour. So here's the flyer from that. And what ended up happening is Kratz canceled it. So it didn't happen. Wah, wah. Here's a ticket to when I went to go see one of the Strang Buting things. And Strang gave me VIP tickets and to go backstage and talk with Strang and Buting. So that's what that is. I already showed you this. Oh, is this another letter from somebody? Oh, that's a letter I wrote to Stephen. This, look at this. Kathleen sent me motion for post-conviction scientific testing that was filed on August 6, 2016. So I got this in the mail one day that Kathleen Zellner sent to me. So it's the actual filing. So that's very interesting. Oh, here's all the... One day we should go through this. I should do a separate live just to go through this because there's some interesting exhibits that are in here. It's been forever since I've looked at it. I don't even know all that's in here, but yeah, nicely binded. Here is another, well, this one's Brendan. This is the catalog to order inmate stuff in Wisconsin. I don't know why I had that in the container. Here's more pictures that I had sent Brendan that supporters had made for the rally and what he liked. So he chose this one, and then he chose this one. And then he chose, okay, it's up here somewhere. This one are the ones that he liked. I also saw there's this sticker. I don't even know what this is from. So that's a big sticker. I found this in there, People Magazine, that's got Stephen on it. What is this People Magazine from? Where's the date? February 2017. This is one of Buting's books that he signed to me. To Jax, thanks for fighting for justice in Stephen's case and every case. Best, Jerry Buting. What else do I have here? We did our own test with the blood vial, and that was just in the container, and you can see the blood is all dried up in here. Look at that, though. The hole that was in the top that used to be very clearly in there is not now. You don't see any hole here. But when I did the example, you clearly saw the hole at the top of this vacutainer or whatever it's called. What else do I have here? When I organized the very first rally in Manitowoc, this is the permit application for it. This is the sign in and out sheet of Avery Salvage Yard, where I don't know if you can see that top line there. Look, Mike Hallwalks. So he was signing in and doctoring his name. So it's not Michael Hallbach, it's Mike Hallwalks. So at 0700, he signed out, but never signed in. At 0812, Mike Hallwalks signed out again. And then at 8:45, Mike Hallwalks signed out again. At 12:10, Mike Hallwalks signed in. 12:26, Mike Hallwalks signed out. All right, so there's that one. This one of the signing in and out. Now this one is showing at 10:18, Brian and Laura Hallbach, Dennis Hallbach, Nancy Hallbach, and a Nancy Hallbach again, all signed in. At 15:43, Brian, Laura, and Dennis Hallbach signed out. At 15:42, Gary and Debbie Hallbach signed out. Why are all these Hallbachs at Avery Salvage? At 15:43, they're there again. So you've got Hallbachs going in and out of the Avery Salvage Yard. What is this next stack? Exhibit list. So these are all the exhibits. Exhibits, exhibits, exhibits. What is this? All right, so this is Brendan being questioned. So let's just read through this. If I have it printed out, I have it printed out for a reason. Wiegert. Then what happens after that? Fassbender. Is she alive yet? Brendan. Yeah. Fassbender. Okay. Wiegert. What happens after you were done watching TV for 15 minutes? Brendan. I told him I had to leave because I had to call Travis. Wiegert. Brendan. Be honest. I can't hear the words be honest without getting so mad. Okay, Brendan, be honest. You were there when she died, and we know that. We know you were there. What happened? Fassbender, he ain't gonna lie to you. Hey, we know that, okay? Uyghur, we already know. Don't lie to us now. Okay, come on. What happens next? Fassbender, you're just hurting yourself if you lie now. Brendan, then he went in back there and he stabbed her. Uyghur, you were with him? Brendan nods yes. Yes? Brendan, yeah. Uyghur, where did he stab her? Brendan, in the stomach. Uyghur, what else did he do to her? Pause. He did something else. We know that. Pause. What else? Brendan. So he tied her up. Uyghur. What do you mean he tied her up? Brendan. So he could take her out there. Uyghur. Before or after he stabbed her? Brendan. After. Uyghur. What happened, or when he stabbed her, did she scream or what? Brendan. Yeah. Uyghur. How many times did he stab her? Brendan. Once. Uyghur. Then show me where. Brendan. Right here. Uyghur. We know he did something else to her. What else did he do to her? Brendan. He choked her. Uyghur. How did he do that? Tell me how he did it. Brendan. With his hands. Uyghur. Was he on top of her? Brendan. Yeah. Uyghur. And did he choke her until what? Did she go unconscious? What? Tell me. Brendan. That she couldn't breathe anymore. Uyghur. Yeah. Did she fall asleep? Go unconscious? Brendan. Go unconscious. Uyghur. Is that before or after he stabbed her? Brendan. After. Uyghur. So he stabs her. Show me what he does. Just demonstrate for me. Fassbender. Yeah, let's come down the hallway. You go with him? Brendan. Yeah. Fassbender. What does he tell you he's going to do at this time? You're going back to the bedroom? Brendan. That he was going to tie her up, stab her, and then choke her in that. Fassbender. He told you this? Brendan. Yeah. Fassbender. And you went with him? Brendan. Nods yes. Fassbender. He went into the bedroom. What does he do? Again, the video, you see it. I know you see it. What does he do? Brendan. That he grabs the rope that was on the side of the bed, tied her up, stabbed her like this, and jumped on her and started choking her. Fassbender. Is she fighting at this time? Brendan. She's trying to move away. Fassbender. Is she saying anything? Brendan. Screaming. Uyghur. You helped to tie her up, though, didn't you? Pause. Brendan. Because he couldn't tie her up alone. There's no way. Did you help him tie her up? Brendan. Yeah. Uyghur. Okay. Tell me what you did. Pause. And now, before I go to the next page, this again is showing you that this kid is led to say everything that he said. He doesn't just volunteer anything. They're saying it first, and then Brendan is saying it. Don't tell me this kid said this all of his own free will. Fassbender. Go ahead, bud. Brendan. That he was on the other side and we had to unhook the hands and tied her up. Uyghur. So you helped unhook her hands? And what exactly did you do? Tell me exactly what you did. Brendan. I got the key for the lock and unlocked it. And after I grabbed her arm, put it on the other side and tied her arm. Uyghur. What arm? Brendan. Her right one. Uyghur. So you grab her right arm and you do what with it? Brendan. Put it on the side like this. I put the rope right here. Fassbender. Did you tie her up in front or behind? Did you tie her? I guess I want to say, did you tie her hands up? Brendan. Yeah. Fassbender. In front or behind her body? Brendan. In front. Fassbender. How? Like this or like this or like this? Show us. Brendan. Like this. Fassbender. Okay, what is she saying at this time? Or is Stephen telling her something? What's he telling her? Brendan. She was saying to stop doing what he was. Fassbender. And what's he saying? Brendan. That he wouldn't. Uyghur. What's he saying though? I mean, what words is he using? Is he swearing at her? What is he saying? Brendan, he told her to shut her mouth up. Fassbender, is he telling her that he's going to kill her? Is he telling her he's going to let her go? What's he telling her? Brendan, that he was going to kill her. Wiegert, so you tie her up, then what happens? Brendan, then we get the other rope and tie her legs up. Wiegert, how'd you do that? Brendan, around the bottom, like where the Wiegert, show me on you where he does that, where you guys do that. Brendan, right here. Wiegert, who ties her legs up? Brendan, he does. Wiegert, do you help? Otherwise, she's going to kick. So again, leading him to this is what we want you to say. Brendan, yeah. Wiegert, did you help or not? Yes or no? Brendan nods yes. Yeah. Wiegert, okay, tell me how you did that. Brendan, I held her feet down. Wiegert, held her feet down. Brendan nods yes. And what did Steve do? Brendan, he tied her legs up. Fassbender, is this on the bed? Brendan nods yes. Mm-hmm. Wiegert, then what happens? Brendan, he told me to grab her feet and we took her outside. Fassbender, is she still alive? Brendan, no, she was unconscious. Fassbender, okay. You got her tied up. When you're getting her tied up, is she alive or has he choked her already? Brendan, he choked her already. Fassbender, did he choke her when she had the handcuffs on? Brendan, yeah. Fassbender, okay. Wiegert, when did he stab her? Brendan, before he choked her. Fassbender, are you sure about that? Brendan nods yes. Wiegert, so she's laying there, handcuffs off, and that's when Steve stabs her? Brendan, nods yes. Wiegert, and then he chokes her after that? Brendan, yeah. Wiegert, are you sure? Brendan nods yes. Fassbender, where exactly did he stab her again? Brendan, in the stomach. These pages stick together. Fassbender, was it in the chest or the stomach? Brendan, well, sort of in the ribs. Fassbender, and what did he use to stab her? Brendan, a knife. Fassbender, where did he get the knife from? Brendan, from the kitchen. Fassbender, and how big was the knife? Show us. Brendan, about like that. Fassbender, about that big, and he got it out of the kitchen. When he went in there, did he threaten her with the knife? Did he just go right and do it? What did he do? Brendan, that he threatened her. Fassbender, tell us what he said. Brendan, that he was going to kill her by stabbing her and not letting her go. Wiegert, what else did he do to her? We know something else was done. Tell us, and what else did you do? Come on, something in the head, Brendan. Brendan, huh? Fassbender, can't. Wiegert, what else did you guys do? Come on. Fassbender, what he made you do, Brendan. We know he made you do something else. Wiegert, what was it? Pause. What was it? Fassbender, we have the evidence, Brendan. We just need you to be honest with us. Brendan, then he cut off her hair. Wiegert, he cut off her hair in the house? Brendan, Wiegert, why did he do that? Was she alive? Brendan, no. Wiegert, what did he do with the hair? Brendan, he set it down on the counter. Wiegert, the counter where? Brendan, like a dresser. Fassbender, what did he use to cut the hair off with? Brendan, the knife. Fassbender, was she alive? Brendan shakes head no. Fassbender, did he say why he did that? Brendan, no. Wiegert, okay, what else? Fassbender, what else was done to her head? Brendan, that he punched her. Wiegert, what else? Pause. What else? Fassbender, he made you do something to her, didn't he? So he would feel better about not being the only person, right? Brendan nods yes. Yeah. Wiegert, Fassbender, what did he make you do to her? Pause. Wiegert, what did he make you do, Brendan? It's okay. What did he make you do? Brendan, cut her. Wiegert, cut her where? Brendan, on her throat. Uyghur, cut her throat? When did that happen? Brendan, before he picked her off the bed? And there's a question mark after that. Uyghur, so she was alive yet, right? Brendan nods yes. Now remember, Brendan's already said she's dead, but now he's saying she's alive. So she's alive and you cut her throat. Brendan, Uyghur, was that before or after Steve stabbed her? Brendan, after. Uyghur, it was after Steve stabbed her? Brendan nods yes. Uyghur, was she, how do you know she was alive? Pause. Tell me, when you cut her throat, how do you know she was alive? Brendan, she was breathing a little bit. Uyghur, she was breathing a little bit. Did Steve tell you to do that? Brendan, yeah. Fassbender and Uyghur, speaking at the same time, cannot understand. Fassbender, how do you tell you to do that? What do you say? Brendan, to go across her throat and pull it back. Fassbender, did he say why he wanted you to do that? Brendan, no. Shakes head no. Uyghur, which knife did you use? Brendan, the same one he stabbed her with. Fassbender, how many times did he stab her again? Brendan, once. Fassbender, are you sure about that? Brendan nods yes. Uyghur, so Steve stabs her first and then you cut her neck? Brendan nods yes. What else happens to her in her head? Fassbender, it's extremely, extremely important you tell us this for us to believe you. Uyghur, come on, Brendan. What else? Pause. Fassbender, we know. We just need you to tell us. Brendan, that's all I can remember. Uyghur, all right, I'm just going to come out and ask you, who shot her in the head? Brendan, he did. Fassbender, then why didn't you tell us that? Brendan, because I couldn't think of it. Fassbender, now you remember it? Brendan nods yes. Tell us about that then. Brendan, that he shot her with his .22. Uyghur, you were there though? Brendan, yeah. Uyghur, where did this happen? Brendan, outside. Uyghur, outside? Before? Tell me when it happened. Brendan, when we brung her outside to throw her in the fire. Uyghur, okay, so let's back up, okay? So I want to go through this, okay? So he stabs her. Brendan nods yes, and chokes her. Brendan, Uyghur, and then you do what? Brendan, I help tie her up. Uyghur, okay, and then what? Brendan, then Uyghur, you cut her throat somewhere in there? Brendan, yeah. Uyghur, yes? Brendan, yeah. Uyghur, and then what? Brendan, cut off some of her hair. Uyghur, okay. Brendan, then we brung her outside and shot her. Uyghur, was she alive when you shot her? Brendan, I don't know. Uyghur, where did you shoot her? Brendan, in the head. Uyghur, who shot her? Brendan, he did. Fassbender, how many times? Brendan, twice. Fassbender, in her body too, or where else? Pause. How many times did you shoot her, Brendan? Brendan, twice. Fassbender, total, not just in the head? Pause. Did you shoot her elsewhere? Honestly? Brendan, in the stomach. Fassbender, how many times did you shoot her when he handed you the gun? Brendan, 0. Uyghur, where did? Brendan, because I couldn't shoot no more. Uyghur, what do you mean you couldn't shoot no more? Brendan, because we used to have a cat that was like something was wrong with him and we had to shoot him because we didn't want to pay for the bills. Uyghur, Brendan, and my mom told me not to watch when her now ex-boyfriend. Uyghur, Brendan, shot him, and I couldn't watch. Uyghur, Fassbender, Brendan, we're in the bedroom yet, okay? Brendan nods yes. She's handcuffed yet, right? Brendan nods yes. And you're telling me obviously correct me if I'm wrong, what we heard? Brendan nods yes. While she's handcuffed and alive, he stabs her. Brendan nods yes. Mm-hmm. Fassbender chokes her, right? Brendan nods yes. Is that right? Brendan nods yes. Mm-hmm. Fassbender. And then he has you cut her neck. Brendan, yeah. Fassbender. And then you cut some hair off. Brendan nods yes. Is it after that does she look like she's dead then, or is she not dead? Brendan, it looks like she's dead. Fassbender, do you see any breathing left? Brendan shakes his head no. No. Fassbender, is it then when you take the handcuffs off and tie her up? Brendan, yeah. Fassbender, you can remember. So you think after she looks like she's dead, then you guys tie her up? Brendan nods yes. Then what do you do? How do you get her outside? Is this when you carry her? Brendan nods yes. When you say you carried her, Brendan, yeah. Fassbender, what part of her body did you carry? Brendan, the feet. And that's the last page of that I have. Let me put this back together. What's this next batch of stuff that I have printed out and paper clipped? So this is also from Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Type of activity. Receipt of trace evidence unit examination on Halbach remains. Date of activity 2/28/06. Reporting officer, investigator Mark Wiegert. On 2/28/06, I, Investigator Wiegert of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, received confidential report of laboratory findings from analyst Kenneth B. Olson from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab. The report indicates the following items were submitted to the Trace Evidence Unit for examination. Item EJ, charred cranial pieces. Item EK, charred cranial pieces. Item EJ had one piece of charred skull that was labeled suspected entrance defect. Elemental analysis was performed on the suspected entrance defect and other areas of the charred bone. Traces of lead metal were detected on one area of the exterior surface of the suspected entrance defect. The source of the lead metal could not be determined. Item EK was not examined. For more information on this, please see the laboratory findings report, which will be included with this. Investigation continues. Wiegert. There was a second page of that. Here's more of the log of the crime scene. This one is showing at 09:03, Ryan Hilgas and Scott Blodorn signed in. This is on November 7th. Then 4:28, Ryan Hilgas and Scott Blodorn, which is written as civilian volunteers, sign out. And then at 18:41, Scott Blodorn and Ryan Hilgas sign in again. And then at 19:07, they both sign back out. So, which again, why are these guys at the crime scene? Next is an email that Ken Kratz sent to Sherry Culhane on Tuesday, February 7th, 2006, subject regarding Stephen Avery case. It says, "Thanks so much for your quick response. Sounds like you've got everything handled. I spoke with Mark Wiegert, and he mentioned he called about swabbing the trigger portion of the gun for DNA, then sending it off to the tool mark guys. Thanks for doing that. Thank you also for testing all the stains in the SUV. That will be a huge weapon against a claim of planted evidence. The STR PowerPoint I found is pretty basic, and I don't intend to go into a lot of the science of the DNA analysis for the jury. This is consistent with the way Norm does it. I still don't understand the two new markers. What chromosomes are analyzed, inspected, associated with these loci? I'm sure you'll explain what 5 base pair repeats means at the necessary time, so we don't need to go into that now. Can you identify the 7 loci that matched on the tissue analysis? Most of what will be presented at trial will be computer-based exhibits, PowerPoint. So although we can develop charts and the like, we'll need to do that in a computer format. Then just print out a small page to have marked as the actual exhibit for court. Mark Wiegert is checking the 1985 Manitowoc blood sample taken to make sure what it was. So you tested that sample back then? How bizarre is that? Were you also the analyst that got him out of prison in 2003? I understand the frequency point on the mtDNA match. It's amazing. However, how much weight the public attributed to that finding locally, that the FBI confirms that the human remains are that of the victims. We were careful not to say that at all, but perceptions are what they are. On that topic, didn't the RFLP testing use 7 loci for a match? I do not need your profiles generated on all the results. The way you did your last report is fine, lumping all the profiles that were from each respective source together. The only thing I still want is a profile developed for the 3 men that submitted elimination exemplars: Chuck Avery, Earl Avery, and Bobby Dassey. I totally understand that your protocol suggests that you stop developing elimination profiles when you have a match. But in this case, the only men on the property when the victim was killed included the defendant, Stephen, and his 2 brothers, Earl and Chuck, and his nephew, Bobby. I want to be able to show the jury what these profiles look like and show them that they do not match the blood recovered from the SUV. I know this seems overly sensitive to the CSI effect, but it eliminates the whole line of defense questioning and possible jury confusion as to why it wasn't done. Here's the good news. I don't need that done the right way. Anytime by May or June would be just fine. Does that sound okay? Please send the elimination profiles themselves so I can include them in the exhibits. So just those 3 exemplars, since Barb and Dolores can be eliminated on XY alone. And I think that's all I need. Never thought you'd hear that, hey? Send your reports when you can and call or write if you need anything else. I'll be talking to Norm and we'll make an appointment when it's convenient for you. Thanks again, Sherry. Ken. I have so much stuff. This is Teresa's death certificate. So, sorry. Date pronounced dead, November 10, 2005. Father's name, mother's name, funeral home, marital status, hospital nursing home name, 12932 Avery Road. So it's listing the salvage yard. Actual or estimated date of death. It's got handwritten in there, unknown. And then date signed by medical certifier, December 5, 2005. So That's the death certificate. I think that's everything I was going to show you all that I found out of the container. I have one more letter from Brendan, but I think I'll hold on to this one and not read it to you all next. But this is a really interesting letter. What haven't I covered as we're getting ready to pull this to an end? What else? Let me pull up Christopher's notes here on what I haven't covered if I'm missing anything. I guess the only thing left to bring up is this year we did a rally at Stevens Prison, and we plan on doing it again in 2021. But of course, it's going to depend on what happens with COVID. So it would be the last Saturday in July, which is July 31st. So stay tuned for news on that. If you want to be able to come up to Manitowoc and make a sign and stand outside of the prison, just showing your support for Stephen. And if you want to watch more videos that we have done, most of them are in the MAM Gossip group. So you can find them in there from field trips we have taken to the crime scene and everything affiliated with it, where we have gone over and listened to phone calls that Stephen has made while in jail, Brendan has made while in jail. You can hear those all in the MAM Gossip group. Then we have another group called Justice with Jax, which you see that written behind me, is a public page. We've got a crime series going on there where we're picking a case a month, maybe. We just started it, that we dive into. So if you're interested in looking into cases that might not be a case you've ever heard of and just learning more about that wrongful conviction, join us there. We're going to be doing lives typically Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central Time, the same time we started this video here today. Whenever something new comes out about Stephen's case or Brendan's case, we get it posted here on Stephen Avery Project immediately. If the court were to rule on the filing that we read earlier today, we will get that to you as soon as we can. And we go live and read through it as well. If there is anybody who watches this video now or in the future, and you are affiliated with the case and want to talk on it, you want to come on a live on Stephen Avery Project and talk about it, reach out to us and we can get that organized. We can, if you want to talk to me off the record, because I would love to talk to the coroner or the bus driver. And I mean, anybody who wants to talk to me, I will be available. That is affiliated with the case, a juror, whoever. But I will also say, please reach out to Kathleen Zellner. I, love if you want to bring information my way, but the most important place for it to go is to Kathleen, because I can't free Stephen or Brendan, but Kathleen Zellner can. And that's where the information needs to go. So the next live we would do here on Stephen Avery Project will most likely be if we hear anything on Stephen's case. Otherwise, you would have to look into the MAM Gossip group or Justice with Jax. We do lives in there much more frequently. On Stephen Avery Project, we try to typically just keep it about the case. We don't really dive in to the facts or theories of the case on here. You'll find that in MAM Gossip. So I'm going to go for today. I thank you all. I know it was a long, long day. Thank you to Christopher. This was all his idea, that he wanted to do something in, it's the holidays, and, you feel bad for Stephen and Brendan that they're away from their families, especially in this time of COVID too, that, they can't see their families, and there's nothing currently going on in their cases, and you still want them remembered, as well as Teresa Halbach remembered. Bottom line is, something happened to Teresa Halbach, and whoever did it to her is still out there. So we want justice for Teresa Halbach, and we want Stephen and Brendan freed. So thank you all. Happy holidays. Investigation continues.